my one camera is not working anymore. It shut itself off for whatever reason. Good day, Internet. This is Josh with Two Wheel Escapes coming to you today with another video. Today's video is going to center around group riding. As you can see around me at this point, I do have at least 5 motorcycles in front of me, and I've got another 6 or 7 behind me. So today's video, what I would like to talk about is the benefits of riding in a group versus the negatives. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the rules that we follow as we ride in a group. The group that I'm currently with right now is called the Gator Riders. I have been riding with them on and off for approximately 7 years now. Took several trips to the Blue Ridge Parkway with them. Went to Robbinsville, North Carolina to ride Tail of the Dragon. Their riding with this group is what gave me my first exposure to those adventures. And then I decided to start taking them solo. Basically, the rules with this group is you do have a lead rider. They're usually leading on the front left-hand side of the lane, and then we start staggering from that point back. Every other bike is on the left, every other bike is on the right, and so forth. You got first bike left, second bike right, third bike left, fourth bike right. As you can see, I'm 6th in line and I'm on the right. We never ride side by side because if we have to avoid any obstacles in the road, we want to be able to avoid them without crashing into each other. And when you ride staggered, you have more opportunity to respond to braking. So we have our staggered formation all the way back to the final rider, which could end up being on the left or the right, and they're called the tail gunner. The tail gunner is usually in constant communication with the leader of the group. The leader of the group and them usually talk either by CB radio or over a Bluetooth device, such as the Sena like I have on now. And their sole job is to notify the lead rider if there's any breakaway of riders, or if there is a missed turn, or if somebody is having bike difficulties. They'll relay that to the front rider, and the front rider will pull over so that we can, all as a group pull off and take care of, assess the issue, and ensure that the person that may be having issues is safe. With that being said, there are times as you ride as a group, when you ride as a group, that people make a wrong turn or you get separated because some people are much slower with riding and others are much faster. Usually the faster ride in the front, the slower ride in the back, and the group is lost. So each one of our responsibilities as a group rider is to obviously keep a safe distance from the people in front of us, but also maintain a visual in our rear view to see if the bikes behind us, how far back they are, or if there is no bikes behind us. In this case, we would actually pull off to the side of the road, and then the person in front of me will notice I'm not behind them. Eventually, they would pull over, and then the person in front of them, so on and so forth. Eventually, the leader's going to look in their rear view and see that nobody is behind them, and they'll either pull off or turn around to try to go check to see what's going on, or if they're still within a safe distance to talk to the gun runner, they will communicate with them and ask where everybody is, did we get lost, did somebody break down, so on and so forth. Hand signals. When we run as a hand signal, the lead rider uses a series of hand signals that determine what our next step is. For instance, if we're going to be in a staggered formation like we are now, they will hold 2 fingers up over their head, over their helmet, and we know that that means double file. But staggered, we never ride together, so it's always going to be a staggered formation here when they hold 2 fingers up over their head. Then if they hold 1 finger up over their head, which is reserved for very narrow roads and or curvy roads, we will double or triple our gap. We will single file into a single ride and make the ride pretty much our own at that point until we see the signal for the 2 fingers over the head. Now, you might ask, how does the guy in the back, if you're 15, 20 bikes in, know what the signal is? Good question. Basically, whenever we see, if I'm behind the head rider and I see them do a signal, like I'm doing now, we're turning right. If I'm behind the first rider, then I'm going to mimic his signal, and the person behind me is going to mimic my signal, and so on and so forth. And by the 20th person, that signal is going to be relayed all the way through the group. So that's how we give our signals. Anytime we do come to a stop, like we are now, as long as we don't have a 3-wheeler in front of us, we do pull up to each other side by side. But when we pull off, at that point, we're actually going to be returning to a staggered formation. What the Harley just did in front of me is not something we normally do in a group. When we're taking off from a turn, we usually go slow until everybody has made that turn and has joined the group, and then we slowly accelerate as a group, because otherwise what you run into is what's called a rubber band effect, where if the first guy guns it and goes, the second guy is going to want to gun it and go, the third guy, fourth guy, so on and so forth. And essentially what you end up presenting for yourself is a possibility that once the front guy slows, that everybody's going to have a brake jamming session. And usually a lot of times this will cause a rear end collision. So that's definitely something you do not want to do. As far as any kind of roadkill or obstacles or something in the road that would cause you to lose traction, it is each individual rider's responsibility here, which coincides with the signals, that if the first person sees something in the road that is a potential obstacle that could cause an accident, at that point they end up pointing to it, whether with their foot or their finger. And they make a point to go around it as wide as they can so that the person behind them can see that they're pointing at something that's in the road that could cause an accident, and they will also mimic the same thing, and so on and so forth. So everybody in the group as a whole will safely get around that obstacle without wrecking. See, our acceleration now is slow and steady. I got a pothole. I'll slow down now. And that is why we ride staggered, because if we ride side by side, me swinging left just then could have potentially had me run into a person next to me trying to avoid that 6-inch pothole in the ground. So definitely riding with a group, there's a benefit of being more safe. It's easier for other motorists that's driving cars or trucks or what have you to actually see a group of motorcycles and hear a group of motorcycles rather than a motorcycle traveling singly by themselves. So in turn you end up being in a safer type of environment, at least from other motorists. And the other thing is the camaraderie that you have as a group, and the brotherhood and the friendships you build, they're all benefits. So now let me go into my personal negatives about riding in a group. You don't always know the skill level of the individuals you're riding with. You don't always know who they are. Sometimes some people make it into the group that are careless and can cause issues. Usually they're addressed promptly and told to either ride within ride within our limits and our desired formation of ride, or to exit the group. Another negative with the group is that for me, I don't get to enjoy the scenery as much. Right now we're going through a lot of beautiful space, and even though y'all on camera can actually see around me and enjoy the views, I constantly have to stay focused on the bikes in front of me and or behind me. I would say that the best position to be in if you want to enjoy the ride a little bit more is towards the back, because that's usually where the slower riders are, that's usually where the bigger gaps are, and you're able to look around. But with me riding in a group, I'm a fairly fast rider. I desire to ride faster, so I usually ride towards the front, and by doing so, I put myself in the position I am in now, where I've got to look at the distance between me and the bike in front of me. Got to make sure that there's at least 2 to 3 seconds between me and that bike directly in front of me, which will be this black Honda, not so much the one to my side. Now the one to my side would be an issue is if I end up pulling up on him and getting next to his side. I got to be careful not to pass my front wheel should not pass his back wheel. Another habit that a group gets into is trying to block traffic. That's something that we advise against, because we are not law enforcement. When we're in a group, we do not have a license to block traffic. Hopefully cars, and we've had some dummy cars still pass us and get halfway through the group and have to whip into our group and break us up, and motorcyclists don't like that very well. I mean, we will get upset because we're trying to ride as a group and you have interjected yourself into our group and you don't belong there. Other times we've had cars actually not notice, well, they noticed that we were riding as a group, but they didn't care, and even though we were trying to turn into the road, they still would not slow down for the group or anything, so we would get split up that way. If you're riding as a group, and let's say, for example, you're riding through the mountains, Blue Ridge Parkway, you see a pull-off where the valley is beautiful and you're way up in elevation and it's such a scenic, beautiful picture, and you just want to get off and take a picture of your bike or take a picture of the scenery. You don't have that in a group, because you're at the mercy of the lead rider. Where they pull off is where you pull off. If they decide not to, you stick with the group, or you get left behind. If you don't know where you're going and only they know where you're going, it's not a good thing. The other thing is, say in the morning after you do a overnight camping session and you're up and you're ready to go and you want to leave and the weather's perfect, unless all the other bikers are up and ready to go, you gotta wait. Or vice versa, if you want to sleep in, because it's nice and cuddly warm inside your tent and everybody else gets up to go, you will have to get up and go too. And my one camera is not working anymore. It shut itself off for whatever reason. Well, that's pretty much it for this video today. I'm going to go ahead and try to enjoy the rest of this group ride to our destination where we're going to be eating breakfast. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you would like to drop a comment in the section below, feel free to do so. I usually respond to comments and questions within 24 to 48 hours. If you want to see videos like this in the future and you are subscribed, click that bell icon so it'll notify you of any videos that I post in the future. With that being said, for now, this is Josh with Two Wheel Escape signing out. Y'all be safe. Peace.